What's going on, everybody? Russell Clay here to bring you another episode of Clay's Corner. Today, I'm going to be profiling four players I think we should be spotlighting as we head towards the end of the 2021 NFL regular season. Some good, juicy stuff there that I think can potentially help us as we head towards the offseason. Before we do that, though, I just wanted to say thank you for tuning in, but also if you want to support this, please give the video a like and also subscribe to the channel. I would really appreciate if you would support. So anyway, let's get right into it. I mean, it's not going to be the most in-depth Clay's Corner, but I do feel we have four little profiles for us to talk about that I think are valuable and we can take with us beyond just these players, but sort of looking at it from a macro standpoint. So, as I always do at the beginning of any week or any episode of anything, we're going to talk about Rashaad Penny quickly because I just think it's such an interesting story. Penny, let's start with this year and then we can kind of go back because, a lot of guys, a lot of running backs break out every year, have a few good games, and then kind of flame out. And I think many are viewing Penny as that type of player right now. And I certainly don't hate on that opinion. However, I will say I do think this is a different situation. You look at these games, specifically week 14 and week 16. Penny not getting much in the receiving game right now, but he has been a dominant runner. When you kind of look at his overall production this year, 5.5 yards per carry, kind of mirroring what he did in that short stint of healthy play in 2019. But really throttling some bad run defenses right now, which on a Seahawks offense that hasn't really shown much juice this year, I think this is a positive indicator. Now, again, we're in year 4 of Penny, and there hasn't been much to get excited about through the start of his career. But what he's shown us in this latest stretch of games where he's been able to stay healthy 4 straight weeks, been able to handle 11 more touches in 4 straight weeks for the first time in his career. And he's showing that explosiveness that made him a first-round pick out of San Diego State. So I don't know that we can count on Penny being a full-time starter next year, but I do think he's making a very good case for himself as a potential a potential player of interest next or this offseason and someone we should be watching in free agency. I think he really could get a starter role off of this, at least to begin next season. So this is a guy to watch, and this is a guy to go watch those highlights on and see what he's doing because he's breaking tackles. He's showing explosiveness at 220, 230 pounds. This guy is a specimen. He ran a 4.46 at 220 pounds at the 2018 Combine. He is a freak athlete, at least from a straight line speed perspective, was an incredible college producer, as you can see from these numbers. Basically, the creme de la creme of college production there. He was a first-round pick, so he's got all that pedigree. He's just never been able to put together a healthy stint of time. So these are the reasons why he's different than all these other guys that have one good game and flame out. He actually has this pedigree. Most of these guys that come in for one game, thrive, and then get sent back to the bench are low pedigree, mediocre college prospects, not necessarily the athleticism that Penny has. So these are all the qualities that make him a little more appealing than your average running back breaking out in the second half of the season. So a guy to keep in mind. I still don't think the market is going to reflect this in terms of season-long best ball drafts and also dynasty leagues. But I think we should be buying right now, at least until that price catches up to what we're seeing on the field. Next guy, third round pick, Diami Brown out of North Carolina. He has had his rookie year in Washington. It's been super ugly, both for him and for Washington. Uh, as you can see here, Brown started out the year. He earned a starting role at the beginning of the year. And then I think, he was 21 years old at the start of the year. And I think Ron Rivera and the coaching staff kind of felt like he was a little green to be playing starter snaps. So they really ramped him down. He got hurt, and they've kind of just abandoned him as a year one player. Did make a really nice play in week 16, but ultimately the Washington passing game has completely fallen apart. So Brown was a really, really good player at North Carolina last year. Really nice deep threat prospect. And this is one of the reasons why I think, when we look at lack of production in year one, we have to ask ourselves, well, why did that happen? And do we have any answers for that? I would say we do for Brown. He's a deep threat based prospect. That's what he was at North Carolina. I mean, I think he does have a little more versatility than that, but those are the routes he won on in college. Those deeper posts, deeper straight line routes. That's where he won. And he just doesn't have a lot of opportunity for that in this offense. He was kind of being used as, an intermediate weapon. And, he's going to be raw at that if that's what they're trying to use him as. I think he might be able to develop into a more intermediate weapon, but to ask him at 21 years old to kind of jump in week one and, be something totally different than he was in college is a tall ask. So I think we have to keep that in mind when we're looking at Diami Brown. Look at Terry McLaurin this year, career lows across the board. So I think we have to give some of this Washington passing game a mulligan, not completely, because I think this is definitely a negative indicator that he got benched after starting early in the year. But he has gotten a few more snaps over the last couple of weeks. And, he is getting snaps in week one, which is more than, some of the other third rounders can say, or even a guy like Tutu Atwell this year in the draft. So I like Diami, loved his profile out of North Carolina. And here's the thing. We're kind of potentially buying him on the idea that Washington could upgrade at quarterback. If they can even upgrade to, a Teddy Bridgewater or just a below average starter instead of what they're getting out of the quarterback position this year, I think we could see a nice year two for Diami Brown. So not a guy I'm giving up on yet. It's been a real ugly year one. I think his price is going to go down in all formats. I think he's going to be dirt cheap. People see, 140 receiving yards in year one without the context and say, oh, he sucks. Just 22, just turned 22 in November. I think we could see a big uptick in his usage, especially if they get a competent quarterback in there. All right, next is Tommy Tremble, and I won't spend too much time on this one, but I do think he's a guy we need to be looking at in our tight end premium leagues and Dynasty, and also for next year with Best Ball. Tremble hasn't been a big presence in this very dysfunctional Carolina Panthers passing game, but he has been a presence, which again, 21-year-old tight end, really tough to get any type of receiving role in year one. As you see, his snaps have kind of slowly ramped up as the season has gone along. Early in the year, they had Dan Arnold. They got rid of him. I think that's a real signal that they think they have something here with Tremble. And again, this is the classic. This is the Dawson Knox, right? This is the, Austin Hooper. These guys in the third round, they're not going to get year one production almost ever. So expecting that is a little silly. So if we're looking at it with that context, getting targets, getting receptions, has a few multi-catch games here, playing a bunch of snaps, playing special teams, getting really involved. so that he's proving his worth to the coaching staff. That's what we're looking for with 21-year-old, tight ends. We've seen it with other guys. Look at OJ Howard. Got on the field in year one, but never really proved himself to the coaches. And you look at him in year 4, year 3, 4, 5, and it's like they're kind of done with him because he never really proved himself. He was a first-round pick, but they never really trusted him. So I want Tremble to continue to play these snaps, continue to be a good blocker, to continue to make positive plays on special teams so that he can earn that role, that long-term role, not just that, one big game role. So I think we're looking at a guy who next year could get into that 300, 400, 500 receiving yard range. Of course, the passing game has been a complete disaster. Nobody's really doing well there other than DJ Moore. So if they can get a better quarterback in there, which I know we say that for Carolina every year, but if they can get an upgrade, I think this is a guy who could really surprise because he's definitely made an impact already on this coaching staff with his role increase throughout the year. So a guy to keep an eye on. He's probably on your waiver wires. Now, if you're in a 10-team dynasty league, maybe you can leave him out there for a little while longer, but maybe a last round best ball pick in season long leagues for 2022, something like that. The last one I want to talk about is Marquise Brown. Now, Marquise Brown has emerged. He emerged this year. He had a huge first half of the 2021 season. Obviously, as Baltimore's offense has cratered, he has sort of, fallen off that elite production and really sitting in that 40 to 50 receiving yards per game range now, despite getting a really big target share. So why are we talking about Marquise Brown? Well, I think he has developed into a borderline wide receiver one. I think he's the wide receiver one on Baltimore. And, I think his owners, despite him having a really good year, are frustrated with him because they're not getting the elite results at the right time of year. So this is kind of what I want to talk about. Let's just say, let's flip this, right? Let's say, week 16 is week 1 and week 1 is week 16. I have a feeling his fantasy owners would be a lot happier if he had, 91 yards and a touchdown in week 13 instead of week 4. So that's kind of the process we have to think about. What biases are people playing with? And, if a player disappoints in the fantasy playoffs or isn't providing that early season upside, people tend to get frustrated with that. So I think we might be going into an offseason where, through no fault of his own, Marquise Brown breaks out in his second year, but by the end of the year, his fantasy owners are kind of pissed at him. Because of the lack of production. He's basically a flex wide receiver 3 at this point in the year. So, I think he's proven himself. And, he's got a few drops here and there, but with a healthy Lamar, a more competent and non-injured Baltimore Ravens offense, I think we're looking at a really solid wide receiver here and a guy with potential lasting power. He's in year 3, but he's only 24 years old. This guy's going to be around for a while, and I think we should be valuing him accordingly, not based on, a few duds towards the end of the fantasy regular season. So there you go, everyone. That's kind of what I'm looking at. Obviously, always looking forward for me with Dynasty, but best ball leagues are coming up. Tons of content going on over at fantasyguru.com. Definitely check out all of that. Also, if you like this video, feel free to leave a like and subscribe. As I said, tons of content coming out over at Fantasy Guru, and there will be another one of these next week. Thank you all for tuning in. I will talk to you later.